the lovely Harinder, who is here. She's from Maverick Games, and she has very kindly agreed to come and chat to us about her work, her background, her career, and she's very passionate about opening the doors to the games industry. She's also like, you are on the board of so many games places. I can't even. I've tried to list them all out. There's so many.
I know there is a lot there, isn't there? I keep myself very busy.
Yeah, I honestly don't know when you have time to sleep. I really don't. And you look fantastic, so you've got to be doing it somehow.
Thank you. Thank you.
Uh, Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate this. Okay, so first of all, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a bit about Maverick Games as well?
Yep. Well, thank you for asking me to come here. This is I feel quite honoured to be here, actually. So I'm Harinder, or H as everyone calls me. I'm a co-founder and COO of Maverick Games. We are a 2-year-old studio, founded by some people that worked on Forza Horizon and myself. Weirdly, didn't know these guys before we started working, but it's going so well. We are making a new IP, which is a narrative-based racing games. A racing game even, and we have recently signed a deal with Amazon Games to publish that game for us, which is great. So I think I don't know whether people have mentioned about how the industry is at the moment, but there is so much positivity. Don't be put off by the industry right now. It is in a difficult place, but we've been in a difficult place before, but we always bounce back, right? That's the most positive thing. So yeah, and other than my role here at Maverick, previously I've worked at SEGA and at Sumo. I am the only woman in SEGA West to run a SEGA studio, so quite proud of that. Thank you very much. Yeah, and I have sat on Yuki, Women in Games, all the boards that make a difference. And I would say my passion and my why is to make the industry a better place.
I love that. And so tell us really quickly how you want to make the industry a better place, because that is a really lovely place to start. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So when I joined the industry about 17 years ago, I would say I had a career before coming into this game. So this is my second career, kind of almost fell into it very really. And I'd worked in other tech industries, came into games, and in fact, just to be really open about it, and the thing is, I was at the Sega Racing Studio, and nobody looked like me, right? Nobody looked like me. There wasn't any women. Well, there was a couple of women, but in support teams, there was not many people of color, right? And that for me is just not what it's not what our player base looks like. So it certainly isn't what our dev teams should look like, right? So from there to coming to make another driving game, having a team where we've a really diverse team, right, which is really important, right, because it just makes the conversation so much more interesting, and that's what I care about. I care about making sure that there is a place for everybody, right? So having a place where women can, I would say, no woman wants a job just because they're a woman, but she does not want to get the job because she's a woman, right? And that for me is the most important thing that we get right. So we have done things in a slightly different way at Maverick to make it a more welcoming place for everybody, no matter what your background. And as I say, from where I was 17 years ago at the racing studio to today, where we have I measure diversity within the team at 50-50, at people that are white men versus anybody from a marginalized background. And we sit at 50-50, which is quite proud to say. That's kind of unheard of in the games industry, but I'm really proud that we have got that just by making sure we open up the path for more people wanting to apply in the first place, right? Because we know all the things that I'm sure lots of people here have already heard of it, where you look at a job description and anybody from a marginalized background will read that job description, and if they see that they can't do 30% of it, they won't apply for the role. Whereas, the other side of that will look at it and go, I think I could do that. I think I could do that. So it's the way we write our job descriptions, we write them in a way that it's welcoming, and it's almost telling you a story about what it could be like to be a member at Maverick. We also put salary transparency on there. So I feel really proud that no two people that work for me are paid differently at the same level. They're all paid the same. So it's not just about how well you negotiate. It means that we have a really fair pay structure as well.
I love that. I mean, there's so many ways that you are trying to make the games industry a better place. So it's very hard to talk about one without talking about the other. But I think what's great for the young people watching is that you now know that there are people who are doing so much good in the games industry, you being a very key player in that fight. So, first of all, amazing. What a way to start. Um, okay, so tell us as well a bit more about. You said it was a racing the product, the IP that you're developing. IP being the idea for a game, I'm assuming.
Yes, 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 yes. So new IP. We can't talk about it yet because it's still undisclosed. But I suppose the only thing I can tell you that's slightly different from what a lot of racing games are, ours is going to have a very in-depth narrative side to it as well. So it's kind of mixing, it's kind of meshing the two together a little bit. So hopefully more appealing to a bigger audience, Brian.
Love that. And that phrase in itself is quite educational. A narrative-based racing game. Like these are the kinds of phrases or descriptions of what a game might be, is what these young people might have to get used to if they were to enter the industry. There's a lot of kind of industry-based terminology, isn't there?
Yeah, oh, so much. I'm glad you talked about that actually, because we so get used to it. Different abbreviations, way of talking about things. We're just so used to it. And actually, it's okay for anybody that's watching to say, I'm sorry, I don't know what that means. It's okay at any time, right? There is no such thing as a stupid question. Don't ever feel it's the wrong thing to do. So when we talk about narrative based, it's all about there's a story. There's a story behind it. So it's not just getting in a car and driving anywhere or going as fast as you can somewhere. There is a story behind it, and we've got characters that build that, I would say, builds that emotional attachment to the game that you're playing as well. Anything that's got that kind of depth to it makes you want to, you want to go down that journey with those characters.
Yeah, I love that. And that just speaks so much to, I think, what the games industry is all about, right? It is storytelling, just through a kind of movement based, I guess, way. And that is kind of the psychology of gaming, is something that actually the young people need to bear in mind. It's not just an industry with a function, it's actually a very emotional, psychological industry, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. And do you know, one of the things that I've noticed most about the industry is the one question I ask everybody that's come to work for me ever is why, what took you down this path in the first place? And I love hearing people's journey. And some of the stuff that Declan was talking about just as I joined, where it's about how, what are those things, what are those little nuggets that are going to help you now, where you've got a while till you're actually in a working studio, but those little things. And I love hearing people's story about how, at a really young age they started coding, or they just found that light bulb moment where it's suddenly like, oh my God, games is a job. Games is a job. And it is. And then it's understanding. It is so much understanding about more what that actually means. And it's so much more than just coding, art, or design, right? And I think there is a real perception around it being just those, and we hear it a lot where talking to similar age group to the people that are joining today, about them almost wanting to be a designer. But what does that mean, right? What does that mean? There's so many different avenues to design, for instance, because it could be about the gameplay where you're coming up with the mechanics and you're understanding about how these different features work. You could be a narrative designer where you are the person that's actually coming up with the story and working with the writers on how that all embeds with the actual thought of what the game is in the first place. You could be a technical designer, which means that you're working closely with the technical team, right? You're working with the code team and you're actually understanding the more in-depth side of things. And then the other side of it is a UX designer. Now, I always think UX designer is actually a really interesting job type, because it can mean so many different things to so many different studios. It's also quite a relatively new job within the games industry, but it's all about that user experience, right? So whether it's, for anyone that plays, whether you're playing on a screen or you're playing on a mobile phone or something, and somebody has sat there and worked out where all of these things sit from a graphic. It's almost like graphic design, right? And it's actually understanding where all of these things sit on a screen and whether they are the best place for them, and whether it works for the player at the end of it, right? So it's all these, there's so many different elements. And then let's say talk about art, right? Art, you could be an environment artist, you could be a foliage artist, right, where you're talking about all of the greenery and all of the trees around it, or whether you're obviously for us here, we have vehicle artists, so that hard surface artist where you are coming up with you're taking real world cars and you're recreating them, right? So there is it's amazing. And then you've somebody that does lighting. So, when you're looking at next time you're playing a game and you look at the screen that's in front of you, somebody has looked at how the cameras all sit and where they best sit. The lighting all sits on that and how that best fits. And then cameras, right? Cinematics is a whole thing within AAA games, right? Where you'll be playing a game and you'll see little snippets where you'll pad down, not for long, but you'll start seeing how this, the bits kind of come together in a cinematic task. Somebody has been doing that. These are all jobs. And I think one of the most important thing for everybody to listen to here is that, there is so much more to games than actually people realize. If it is, there is a part of it where you really do need to follow your do what you believe in, and the outcome is passion, right? That's what I would say to my team here, and that is the truth. If you follow something that you really care about, and if it is games, and I can tell you it's the most rewarding industry and fulfilling industry by far. I've never worked with a more brilliant, smartest, real high performing team like I do today. They are so full of that understanding about what the end goal is and what they want to get to, and then how that all comes together, and the way that these teams work together and they gel together, and those light bulb moments where they've worked out a problem which is like, wow, we didn't see this coming, but we've worked out this problem, whether it's a technical or how something artistically looks. And the games industry is full of absolute passionate people, but even if you are not an artist, a designer, or an engineer, if that is not your path, don't think the games industry is still not for you, because there's all these other things that we still need. My background is I'm an accountant by profession.
Oh.
I'd like to say I was good at maths at school, but I wasn't. Sorry. But it's a path that, so for studios need people that are supporting them as a business as well, because we are businesses and we need to operate. So we do need people that are helping us from whether it's a HR perspective, whether it's somebody helping us making sure that all our numbers add up, whether it's somebody helping us from a marketing background, because somebody needs to be marketing our games, right? So it's all of these different aspects. So I suppose I know I've talked a lot. I've only got a couple of minutes, but that I think my advice to anybody, and I say this because I have a 14-year-old daughter, and I would say, I'd love somebody to be saying this to her, is, honestly, there is the industry that you feel most akin to. You feel like this is what you really care about. You almost need to find a path down there. I somebody that used to work with, I'm going to use this story just to finish on, actually, because he was a bit of a mathematical genius, right? Always wanted to find, really, really passionate about games, but never thought that he could find a path. Now, he'd gone off and done analytics, right, which is all about actually looking at big data and just finding out how things work. So he'd done a lot of work on that. Now, he went and worked in a housing association doing analytics and data. Never thought he would find his path into the games industry, but he did. Right, he really did. And when particularly with a lot of games are looking at data and how we make decisions based on certain games, we look at analytics, right? So this person had come into the games industry, found his way, turned out to be one of the best designers. He's now he's now actually lead game designer on at Supercell on Clash. So that finding that path, and and also I hope that if anybody wants to find out a little bit more, I would be more than happy. I'm on all the socials, so please do feel free to reach out to me, because it's finding that thing that really sparks that fire in your belly, and it never feels like a job then. And for me, this has never felt like a job, because I've worked with some of the most passionate people that I've ever in my life, and it's just it feels an absolute pleasure to come to work every day.
Oh my God, what a note to end on. Also, timed that perfectly. Absolutely.
Didn't I?
No, I feel your energy, your passion, your genuine desire to get people in and inspired, and it really comes through. I feel like that was a fantastic. I wanted you to speak. You were the person that should be speaking. So that was good. You did not speak too much. That was absolutely perfect.
I think you know me now, Sam. Just put a question there and I'll just keep going.
That's what I want. Then I have to do minimal work. That's great. I appreciate you coming in to speak so much. Thank you for that wonderful story at the end as well. That was really inspiring. And just goes to show exactly like you say, you know, whatever your skill is, you will have a place in the games industry. You might not know what it applies to yet, though. Okay, well, we've got Yuki coming in next, which obviously you are familiar with. Yuki.
I am with those guys, yeah.
Thank you so much for your time. I'll drop you an email afterwards, but really appreciate you and have a lovely rest of your day.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Take care.